because we are not clear of our laws. And now the law is clear. Is it long enough to start seeing investment coming into the country within 2 years? So post-PIA, we've seen NUPRC giving some licenses to explore more areas of oil production, but we have to give them time to see the effect of this investment. And one of the other reasons why we don't have enough investment in Nigeria that has been discussed in earlier paper was the security situation. Investors don't want to put their money where there is security threat. Theft and vandalism is also a bad signal to investors. They don't want that. Inadequate infrastructure needed for efficient investment. Investors are not interested in investing on onshore production and projects because of these risks of security, vandalism, and theft. There are other investment destinations that investors could send their money to. Not only Nigeria. Some countries have found oil. So the issue of saying Nigeria is the only destination or few destinations in Africa is no longer there. Investors have alternative destinations. And the global call for climate change remedies, that call for reduction in the usage of fossil fuel, is also a reason why some investors are not investing in the oil and gas business. Investment can only increase if some of these licenses and leases are converted or have converted into the PIA. But recently we've seen the report from NUPRC that still there is need for more companies to convert to the PIA. This month, NUPRC has hosted 27 companies have converted their contracts with 1 new petroleum prospective licenses on their PIA. These are likely reasons why we want to believe that there's going to be an increased investment in the near future. Even though companies are giving 17-month ultimatum for automatic conversion, this deadline or ultimatum has already been reached. So, but there's still need for documentation to convert all these existing contracts into the PIA. So it's a long way to go. Another indicator or implementation done since the passage of the bill or the enactment of the law is the Host Community Development Trust Fund, where 3% of the previous year actual operation cost is set aside as a levy on the operator for the development of the host community. In this case, not the state, but the community. The settler, in this case the company, will now decide which community is the host community for that production. In a way that this community, once there is a production, they will get benefit from stability of this production. But when there is disruption, sabotage, or any civil unrest, then they have to forfeit some of their entitlements and benefits, equivalent to the amount it will cost to repair and the amount of the damage caused by this sabotage. So this is to make the host community to be the security, to protect this investment, so that there is going to be an improved investment climate to attract more investment. So every company has 12 months deadline to set up these host communities. If you are a new company, before you send your or get your development plan approved, you have to set up your host community trusts. And that is why there are several of these host communities that have been set up. The settler, the operator will now work with the host community to set up the trustees that will set up or incorporate this organization that will help this community. So far, as of May 2023 this year, 75 host communities have been established by the NUPRC. This will help restore confidence on the investors to know that they are not the only beneficiaries of production stability, that the host communities, they are also stakeholders. So these are also measures set by the PIA that will increase investment. We've been talking about 30% of the PSC profit and the service contract profit, which is going to be set aside for frontier exploration, which is being given to the NUPRC. This will also enhance opportunity for exploration of more fields that will lead to more activities and operation in the industry. Even though it's too early to judge whether these frontier funds will drastically or significantly improve the acreages and investment in the country or not, because of the time factor, it's just 2 years so far. So these are so far what has been significantly implemented, apart from the physicals, which I'm going to talk about them in the process of discussing and analyzing the impact and implication of the PIA into the Federation account revenue. Now, what are the major indicators to look at when assessing the impact of the PIA on the Federation account revenue? The first indicator is oil production. Since the PIA, are we having an increased oil production or not? We are going to analyze these figures. We're also going to analyze the oil revenue to the Federation account before the PIA and after the PIA. We're also going to, which we have already started discussing, about oil and gas investment and development. Since the PIA, has investment and development improved or increased or not? Now let's look at the first one, which is oil production. If you look at this chart, it's giving us the chart of the oil production trend from 2020 to 2023. The PIA was passed in 2021, later part of the 2021. But if you look at, see the trend, the oil production is plummeting. It's going down as we move down the years. You can see the figures here in 2020. We were doing a daily average of 1.8 million. We dropped down to 1.6 million. Later dropped down to 1.3 million. The average so far this year, we are doing 1.2 trillion, so 1.2 million barrels in a day on average. If you look at this year's trend alone, you can see there were some drops of oil production, but from July to October, there is some few improvement in the production trend. So there is a hope that the future is going to be an increase or improved oil production next year or some year time to come. So now, what are the factors affecting oil production that we've seen is going down? What can we do now to increase it? What are the factors? Number one, we also have to go back to year 2020 from the COVID-19. The COVID effect has affected oil production up to date, because during the COVID crisis, some contracts were cancelled, budgets were cut, and some rig building were also cancelled. So for us to wrap up production, it requires some years, at least 3 or 4 years, to go back to the previous level of production. So we are still feeling the effects of COVID-19. Another reason is the delay in investment due to the low uncertainties, which I talked about, and it's too early to see this investment coming up immediately because the law has just been passed in 2 years' time. Some of the onshore wells or fields are already mature, and there is no investment to enhance their production, because to migrate from secondary recovery to tertiary recovery, it requires financial investment. And when onshore fields are no longer safe, these investors will not want to invest in the tertiary recovery. And that led to the drop in the oil production. We've been talking about insecurity, vandalism, and theft, especially that happen onshore and shallow waters, where oil from gathering pipelines on their way to terminals, there have been cases of theft and bunkering, and security operatives that have been sent to secure those products or commodities, they are also being bribed and allowing searches to happen. If they disagree, they don't want to compromise, their life will be threatened. These are things that happen and led to the damages of the environment, which are costly to repair. And this led to shutdown of most of these wells because of frequent vandalism. One of the examples of this serious issue of vandalism is the Trans-Niger pipeline that had been vandalized several times. There was a report that says on this pipeline, which is one of the major Nigerian pipelines, more than 400 illegal connections were found on a single pipeline. And this led to 1 year shutdown on this pipeline. And in a year, that means a lot of oil revenue lost. Now look at, after the revival of this pipeline, in just 1 year, or up to May 2023, this pipeline was able to transport 3.7 million barrels of oil. Just May this year. So from January to September 2021, there was a report that says Nigeria has lost up to 898 billion naira to crude oil losses and repairs of vandalized pipelines. And during these 10 months, NNPC deducted up to 1.7 trillion naira from Federation account they were supposed to remit. They have not done that because of fixing those pipelines and vandalism. These are exogenous factors that affected the oil production in Nigeria. We cannot say it's because of PIA that we are seeing a decline in oil production. But PIA has taken measures to combat the future occurrence of these situations by setting up host community development trust so that people will also help in ensuring the security of these facilities and reduce these costs. So PIA could be hindered by these exogenous variables. One of the effects or consequences of this vandalism and bunkering is that Nigeria is losing a lot of money that's supposed to go to the subnationals. Because once there is vandalism, the pressure on the pipeline will drop. This will lead to shutdown of these pipelines to avoid polluting the environment. And it's very costly to shut down these pipelines. Sometimes after shutting these wells or these pipelines, it will become difficult to revive it back to the previous level of production. Some wells must be given up after shutting down. When you shut down some wells, you cannot help it but just to give it up. Because when the pressure goes down, you cannot revive it back. We have countries like Russia, once they shut down their oil wells, they cannot reopen it. So even when they want to reduce oil production, they will still have to keep producing and storing it for future. Unlike Saudi Arabia, that has high level of pressure flexibility and the pressure management system for their wells. Saudi Arabia is very easy for them to shut down their wells on and off when they want at low cost than anyone else. But in Nigeria, it's not the case. Once we shut down wells because pipelines are vandalized, we have to give it up. And imagine someone wants to steal 500 barrels and it costing Nigeria 500,000 barrels of oil. And imagine this continuously happening at the expense of the country. So what are we expecting? To see higher growth in investment and oil production? That cannot happen. Now, let's look at if that decline in oil production has affected the oil revenue remittance to the Federation account revenue or not. Now, if you look at this chart, we are going to see the annual oil revenue to the Federation account in billions of naira. If you look at 2020, we've done 3.3 trillion, 2021, 3.6 trillion, 2022, 6.9 trillion, and so far 2023, we are doing 4 trillion. And what happened in 2022, that we have the highest oil revenue to the Federation account? One of the factors is oil price. The oil price has averaged in 2022 around $102 per barrel. In fact, from March to August 2022, oil price remained above $100. And that's why we're able to get a lot of money into the country. NNPC paid more on subsidy as a result of higher oil price. As we are receiving more money from higher oil price, we are also paying expensive bills for importing the refined petroleum, like taxation, especially on other operations, and also taxes. This has increased during that high oil price, and that's why in 2022 we have higher oil revenue to the Federation account. If you look at the same year that we have higher oil revenue to the Federation account, that was the year when we have one of the highest oil price, which I'm showing the graph for the oil price from January 2020 to September 2023. And now, what is the relationship between oil price and oil revenue into the Federation account? If you look at this chart, it's showing the changes, the volatilities in oil revenue to the Federation account as against the volatility of oil price. So, some impact as a result of the market forces, not because of the PIA. But I was interested to know whether this relationship is positive or negative. And what I did was to run a regression to understand the relationship between oil revenue so far into the Federation account as against the oil price. And I found out that there is a positive correlation between oil price and Federation account revenue from oil sector. And I found out that a $1 oil price increase leads to a monthly revenue increase to the FAAC by 623 million naira. A dollar increase in the price of oil price will lead to an increase in the Federation account oil revenue by 623 million naira. So what are the other physicals that affect Federation account? That in form of dividend into the Federation account. So it's coming back into the Federation account. NNPC has started paying interim dividends into the Federation account, about 81 billion naira monthly to the Federation account since July this year. The over-discussed PSC group lifted by NNPC, which has been lifted in kind, marketed, sold, and remitted to the Federation account by the NNPC. We have this division, which we already been discussing, the PSC profit and also service contract profit. 30% will go to the NNPC management cost, 30% for frontier exploration sent to the NBRC. PSC profit, 40% to the Federation account. So this is the only money from the PSC that goes to the Federation account. The 60% will not be sent by the NNPC directly into the Federation account. LNG dividends for the first time is directly being remitted into the Federation account. And so far, there were over $20 billion of dividend from NLNG that have been remitted into the Federation account. So NLNG is now directly remitted into the Federation account, courtesy of the PIA. Okay, I will not talk more about what the PIA says about the royalty, but the figures are here, we are all familiar with it. It's just to attract investment in deep offshore, the frontier basins, and also make Nigeria benefit when oil prices increase. We also talk about hydrocarbon tax and company income tax. Instead of companies to pay 85 petroleum profit tax. Now they are paying about 60% in tax, so which is a reduction to attract investment in Nigeria. But what we did a forensic analysis of the Federation account revenue from the PIA to date. We look at the specifics of this oil revenue. We look at the FRS petroleum profit tax. We also look at NUPRC royalty and NNPC remittance. So this line is the time when PIA was signed. From that time, we've seen an increase in the blue line, which is the petroleum taxes, have increased significantly to the highest level somewhere in August 2022. We've also seen an increase in NUPRC royalty being paid to the Federation account, even though NNPC did not remit since August 2022 until July 2023. So NNPC started fully implementing the PIA in July 2022. Why NNPC started remittance in July 2023 is because of the dividend, the PSC profit, and the taxes, and what we call the interim dividend. So after the PIA, we've seen that taxes has overtaken royalties, which is another reason why PIA was set up. Other external factors that are affecting the physicals and hence the revenue to the FAAC and also affecting the success of PIA are subsidy issues, exchange rate, and oil price and inflation. The subsidy has affected the capacity of the oil sector to remit into the Federation account. Now the PIA has removed subsidy. We should expect even more remittance into the Federation account. But the question is, has subsidy really gone? Because if you look at the current, as of this month, 15th of this month, the landing cost was around 600 naira per liter. That is without the charges, transportation, and other margins attached to it. And what we are paying at the filling station is around 640, I know maybe in Abuja. So the question is, are we still paying for subsidy or not? Because some people argue that subsidy is an evil necessity. Because it's necessary at the current time because of high exchange rate, importation is going to be more expensive at a time when oil price is high, and we are lacking refineries. We have to import this refined petroleum from outside. So what happens if the exchange rate continue to be higher and higher? That will affect the NNPC profit and dividends, which will also affect the FAAC account. But due to the recent announcement by the President that the subsidy is gone, that has increased the pump price higher and reduced whatever margin is there. Even if there are existing subsidies now, but they are not as much as they were before. Because already oil prices and the pump prices are already high. So even if there are subsidies, they are not as much as they used to be. Which will also increase remittance to the Federation account by NNPC. The unification or the devaluation of Naira led to the higher Naira income. Because these commodities are sold in dollars, you bring them to Nigeria, convert them into Naira, that's going to be an increased revenue. So higher nominal revenue to the Federation account due to this devaluation, but unfortunately that comes with higher importation products or imported products, higher importation product or cost of importing them. So we have higher revenue in terms of Naira revenue, but more expensive because we are importing this product in dollars. At a time when oil price is higher, greater than $80 per barrel, we are supposed to benefit, but production is still low. The DSDP has led to so much losses of forex. to Nigeria, because what we are doing was trade by barter, even though the NNPC representative said that has been stopped. But there are still some DSDP obligations Nigeria has to fulfill with some signed contractors that are already engaged. Either Nigerian government has given them the crude, expecting the refined petroleum, or they receive the petroleum product, they have to give them the crude oil. But by the end of this year, hopefully that DSDP will be totally gone. Lack of refineries makes the situation worse, since we have to use the money that we get from extra or higher oil price to now use the same money to import refined petroleum products due to lack of refineries. Now, with the discontinuation of DSDP in this year, all crude oil export should bring foreign currency into the country, which will increase inflow of revenue to the FAAC, but still need to spend more to import refined petroleum. This is the effect of lack of refineries in Nigeria. With Dangote refinery commissioned almost 6 months ago, we've not seen production or operation yet. So instead of waiting for Dangote refinery, we can start thinking of what can we do as a country, as the government, or to attract investors to build the refineries, because this is the only solution to address some of these external factors influencing on the Federation account remittance from the oil and gas sector. Another issue is the inflation, which is the last issue I'm going to discuss. The dual effect of Naira devaluation and subsidy removal has led to the increase in inflation in Nigeria. Now this month's report, we now have one of the highest inflation rates of around 27%. This inflation led to the devaluation of Naira. The purchasing power of Naira has reduced, even if these subnationals are receiving extra money, but this money are coming at a lower value. What they can do with this money is less. Higher nominal Naira value, but the capacity of that is reducing. And when I did analysis, I discounted the revenue sent to the Federation using 2020 as a base year, the 4 trillion Naira sent to the Federation account is the same thing as 2 trillion Naira in 2020. So this is highly and grossly discounted figure because of inflation. In conclusion, we can say that PIA need more years to see its effect. For a significant effect in the industry, PIA needs to be implemented up to 10 years for a significant impact, because of the investment effect comes in the later time in the sector. The implementation of PIA is still at a lower pace. The time is required and right leadership is also needed. Generally, we conclude that PIA is an excellent law. No law is perfect, man-made law, but it may have its some issues, but it's an excellent law to help grow the industry. And before I drop the mic, I came out with some recommendations that could be considered in this retreat that will help enhance the efficiency of this law and the relevance or significance of the oil sector in the national revenue. We have to be mindful that PIA could be affected by external factors, so oil and gas sector could be affected by external factors, not the PIA itself. Subsidy is the major determinant of the impact of the PIA in the short term. Some of the recommendations are, we have to have sufficient refineries in Nigeria, with the Port Harcourt refinery hopefully coming soon, Dangote refinery coming soon. We can also look at some modular refineries to see how we can leverage some of these small investments to refine locally our petroleum product needs. Consistent leadership in the sector is needed. Rule of law in the sector. We have to operate by the law. No political interferences. We have to invest in modern transportation system, especially in major cities, to reduce the PMS per capita consumption, and look at alternative fuels, especially CNG, to reduce our reliance on imported PMS. We have to diversify, because one of the themes of this or the theme of this retreat is diversification. We have to look at the other non-oil sectors so that they can also remit more and more into the Federation account. Produce more to protect the Naira. That can only happen through import substitution, because all these issues, all these laws can be undone if Naira continue to fall continuously. And lastly, we have to reduce the cost of government. The cost of governance has to be reduced so that we can spare money to invest in critical infrastructures that will enable investment so that we can generate more revenue from other taxes. So ladies and gentlemen, I would like to conclude by saying that PIA is an excellent law that needs time to evaluate its impact and implications. I will continue to monitor the implementation and see the effect of this PIA onto the Federation account to see whether there is improvement or decline, and understand why, so that we can have a policy suggestions on what to do to improve the situation. Thank you so much, and God bless you.
The first speaker talk about if instead of us investing in non-oil and gas sector, why are we investing in oil yet? You know, the issue of peak oil, whether oil has reached its peak, is declining, has been there. 40 years ago they said oil has reached its peak. It's going to come down as a major fuel or primary source in the global energy mix. But oil is still the major dominant. One of the biggest threats to oil domination is alternative transportation fuel, particularly electric transportation. I agree with you, the fame of oil will not be as it used to be, but oil and gas is still our comparative advantage. And when we are investing in this frontier exploration, we are also investing in gas, because most of our gas and oil are associated. So I think before we give up on our oil, and because the world is moving towards a transition, we shouldn't give up. So even despite the campaign against the usage of fossil fuel, as developing countries, we should not give up on the fossil fuels yet. Yes, I'm actually brief. You talk about fiscal impact on the revenue. Okay, let me just move to the next one. Second person talk about the time frame should be minimal 5 years to see the effect. Host community, why are they not helping? Host community trust has just been built, so we should not see the effect immediately, because some of them have not been constituted yet. So we hope that that will put an end to this vandalism. JV and PSC crude is being transparency now. People can audit what's going on there. We have some agencies like NIETI that is auditing everything that's happening in these attractive sectors. We talk about whether host community being managed solely between the settler and the community without involving the state government. Well, I agree with you, there should be a mediator. The mediator in this case is MUPRC, that is coming in between to mediate between the settler and the host community to decide who become the trustees, the executive members, the non-executive members of the host community trust that will manage those funds. I agree with you, in the process of amending the PIA, we can see how we can bring the state government. But these host community funds are helping to also do what the state government is supposed to do. Because there is this constitutional provision of 30% derivation that has been given to the state government. And what are they doing with the money so far? So this is an implementation to reduce the burden on the state government. And some parts of the country, some people are happy with the constitution of the host community, the establishment of that. Can we talk about the transition, the skill sets, and the work environment in the NNPC now? I believe is set to enhance and incentivize the required skill set to help the country or the oil sector to transit to more liberal oil and gas sector. And then lastly, we talk about the structure and ownership of the NNPC. So for me, I think it's not only about the ownership and the structure of the NNPC. There are two major issues that are paramount or will determine the success of the PIA or not, irrespective of the ownership. One is refineries. As long as there is no refinery in Nigeria, PIA will never work. There is always the issue of subsidy, deduction in NNPC remittance, and hence reduction in the FAAC revenue. So for me, let us work on building refineries to address the issue of subsidy, and then see the effect. And then we can look at changing the structure and ownership of the NPC in subsequent review. Thank you so much.